Hey guys, Scott here. I just found that after 4 years, I've been using the wrong resolution setting on my webcam. So I'm gonna go ahead and fix that now for the first time. And yeah, no, that's way clearer. That's too clear. Like you can see how shit my skin is. I don't like that. But I'm stupid. I didn't realize that for a very long time. Anyway, nothing much going on in the world of DBD right now. And I actually just got this Twitch trophy for hitting a certain milestone, and I just thought that'd be a fun time to go over pretty much my entire history, why I'm currently here right now, and you're watching me. I think thinking about the chain of events that lead to certain things to be really fascinating, and I love doing deep dives on content creators that I've watched before and seeing, where'd they come from? Because you're like, they're a huge content creator now. Like, how did that start? Obviously, I'm not huge. I'm like barely my head is above the water here, but I can consider myself successful at the least, but I'm certainly not, rich or big or anything like that. But it's enough, and it's a wonderful, incredible, amazing job. And I wanted to go over how I got here. And it's funny, my Nexus event, the thing that steered my entire life's trajectory, was the game Amnesia: The Dark Descent coming out in 2010. That is the main determining factor of my life for some reason. But there's a couple of things that happened before that. So we got to go back all the way to 2001, 2002. I was 11, 12 years old. And when I was in school, I absolutely loved doing stick figure animations like flip books. We would have textbooks for school, and I would absolutely love just making stick figures fighting and stuff like that when you would flip the pages. And that's how I spent the majority of my time in a lot of my classes, just making animations like that. So in 2002, I learned that there was a way to do that online. You could actually animate them on your computer and make full animations like that. So I learned of this website called sfdt.com, Stick Figure Death Theater. Don't go there now. I'm pretty sure it's porn, or do. I'm just saying it ain't what it used to be, because the website was deleted a while ago. But this was basically a new website where you could just submit stick figure animations, and there were a lot of people there that were notable animators today. There's just a couple of people, like I was a moderator on their forums after a certain amount of time, and there was a couple of other, like Rob Demblaker, who does Cyanide and Happiness. Although I knew him for the true best stick figure animation series of all time, Joe Zombie. There was just people like that. So it's just a cool look at like where a lot of people got their start. But I was a part of that community as well. And I started wanting to animate on the computer. And so I couldn't afford anything. So I didn't buy a program. So I pirated some shitty program called Cool Moves, which was basically like the poor man's Macromedia at the time, Flash. And I don't know why, if I had the choice to pirate the actual official program or some shitty knockoff, I pirated the pirate, basically. I don't know, I was 11 or 12. And so I started making animations there. And the animations were horrible. They were absolutely terrible, but I really enjoyed doing it. Now, it might not make any sense how that's relevant now, but just know that I was into stick figure animations, and I eventually learned that you can make games using the stick figures as well. So that is relevant. Anyway, jump years later, I was off to college, and I was majoring in computer science. I went to Florida State University, and Nexus event number 0, I guess, the prequel, was my first semester, my first full semester. My roommate was a drug dealer. That actually was a massive determining factor in my life. Before that, I actually did summer session. I graduated in 2008, and I did a summer session, I believe, like in August. It was really soon after, and I loved it. My roommate was someone I was friends with in high school. My suite mates, because all the dorms were basically 2 people and 2 people connected with a bathroom. My suite mates were awesome. We hung out with them all the time. I got the true college experience, although I'm not a huge fan of like partying and bro shit. I did go to like frat parties, if you can imagine it. I did all that stuff. I got to experience it. And again, I still preferred sitting there and playing video games, but it was cool to experience. And overall, my first summer semester was great. I had a great time there. But then my roommate had to go somewhere else. I forget why. And so I had to get a random roommate for my first true semester of college. And yeah, I got paired with a drug dealer. He was surprisingly a nice guy. But he would be selling bars of Xanax out of the room. He had just wads of cash everywhere. Not someone I want to spend my free time hanging out with. Again, he was actually pretty nice, but like, I wasn't going to be friends with this person. And I didn't really meet any friends through my classes either, because when you go to college, despite the fact you just went through so many years of bullshit not learning about what you want to do for the rest of your life, you have to still do more bullshit electives that are not at all related to what you actually want to do for your job. So still, for another year or two, I still had to just do just random, just biology, just more stuff I'm not interested in all. I got to do one object-oriented programming class, which was actually pretty cool. But for the most part, I was just doing, just bullshit electives. And so I obviously wasn't going to be friends with my roommates. I wasn't friends with my suite mates because it was a different rooms, like dorm style. There was no connected bathroom. So I had no options there. I didn't really have any similar interests with people in my classes because there were no interests because they're just random elective classes. And so I started to get depressed. I was just like, I felt alone. I felt like I wasn't doing anything. I didn't like that I wasn't doing the main reason I came to college, which was for computer science. I switched majors a couple of times to computer criminology. I tried computer engineering. Still, it didn't matter because I just still had to do bullshit classes for like the first 2 years. And so at the end of the second year, I just didn't want to do it anymore. My grades were starting to go down to like C's and stuff like that. I got a D in one of my other classes. Like I just didn't care anymore. And I was usually a pretty good student. I had like a 3.8 GPA. So I was, not a genius, but I did pretty good in school. And yeah, I had like a 2 point something in college. So I was just depressed on basically every aspect. I had to go on Zoloft. I had to see a psychiatrist. It was not a good time in my life at all. It's funny. Usually people say that high school is their time for that. I loved high school. I had a great time at high school, but then college just went super downhill for me. So I came back home. My parents are super supportive. I have wonderful parents. I came back home and my depression started getting better pretty quickly. And I actually started continuing to work on games. During the whole time of college, I was actually still practicing. I actually got Adobe Flash. I started getting, more proficient at it. I learned ActionScript 2.0 and 3.0, all that stuff. I actually started making games and I actually started selling games. I sold a lot of games, actually. I made the Torture Chamber 3, which is this shitty, terrible game that millions of people played for some reason. Like Cloud to Ground Lightning or Guardian, I think it was called. It was like a ripoff of the AC-130 mission from Call of Duty. I actually made and sold a bunch of games, so I actually started making money off of doing that, but it still wasn't enough to support myself, so I got a job at Best Buy, and that was fine. It was an okay job as far as retail goes. It didn't pay very much, but I actually enjoyed hanging out around computers and people that knew what they were talking about, all that stuff. It was overall okay. And then Amnesia: The Dark Descent came out in 2010, and that was the most important thing that has happened. That's the reason I'm married. That's the reason I'm doing what I'm doing right now. All the webs spawned from Amnesia: The Dark Descent. For those who don't know, it was a horror game that came out in 2010. Still super good game till this day. One of the scariest games I've ever played. But more importantly, at the time, the whole Let's Play community on YouTube was huge. Let's Playing, because streaming didn't really exist. So Let's Playing was the only way to watch someone else and like play the game vicariously through them. And so there were a lot of, blossoming YouTubers at that time, like PewDiePie, Markiplier, like, all those guys. They kind of started with the whole horror Let's Play thing. A lot of people came from that. And another one of them, Cryotic, was one of the people that played a mod that I made. Now, obviously, Cryotic turned out to not be a very good gentleman. We'll leave it at that. But I did make a mod for Amnesia: The Dark Descent using my experience from making games previously. I thought it'd be a cool idea to try it because the game actually came out with an editor. Not even editor, it was just the engine itself. They let you use their own engine. And so I made a couple of custom stories. One of the big ones I made was called Through the Portal. And, a lot of the major YouTubers played it. Like, again, PewDiePie, Markiplier, and Cry played it. They all played it. And still to this day, some of my favorite things to do right now are like watch Markiplier play my game. It's such a cool feeling that I don't think I'll ever replicate again. Because now I've fallen into the obvious, well, it's easier and more lucrative to just play games rather than make them. So I'm just going to do the easier thing because that just seems like a smarter thing to do. But yeah, it's an indescribable feeling watching a popular YouTuber play and enjoy the game that you made. I don't know. It just, as an aside, that's just such a cool internal feeling. Anyway, so I did that, and Cry was one of the people that played my game, and he actually was doing streams with another Amnesia mod maker called Russ Money, who to this day is still an awesome dude. And so they invited me on a stream that they were doing called Late Night with Cry and Russ one day, and then I just stuck with them doing that for the next almost decade. And that is where I got to have a bit more notoriety. Now, this is not relevant to me as a content creator specifically, except for one very important factor. And the important factor there is that it is so difficult to start from zero. I didn't start from zero because I was on a stream that already had a couple of hundred viewers, and I branched off of that, and I leached a couple of those views onto my stream. I started with like 40 to 50 viewers on my first stream, which is so much of an advantage over someone with 0 to 1. Like, 40 doubles to 80, 160, 320, and then, you're growing at a pretty exponential rate. If you have 0 and you double 0 viewers, you still have 0 viewers. So that is the reason that whole side thing was relevant, because it let me start with a non-zero number in terms of content creation. So that's so vital. But during all that time, because I was friends with everyone there, I actually brought one of my friends, Snake, who I met from a Trouble in Terrorist Town server back in like 2010, early 2010, maybe 2009, I'm not sure. By the way, please, some popular person bring TTT back. That shit is so fun. It's like Among Us, but actually good. Anyway, as an aside, I brought him over, and then Russ and Snake convinced me to try a game called Dark Souls. And I had tried Dark Souls before, and I refunded it, I think, or I just never played it again or something. I forget. I tried it and I hated it, but they kind of forced me to play it again. We did co-op, and I started going, oh shit, I actually kind of like this. And then, I started becoming a huge Dark Souls fan, and then that led to me learning how to do Dark Souls PvP, which I started to become pretty good at. So I actually started streaming Dark Souls 2 PvP. That was my first main thing. And again, I was able to start with a few viewers just off the bat, which is great. And so I just did Dark Souls PvP for a while. As an aside here, there was a cute streamer I saw playing Dark Souls 2. She was doing invasions. Her name was Jen Denise, and I used the equivalent of a taunter's tongue there to force her to invade me, and I parried her, and then I went in her chat and asked for her digits. I swear to God, that is the story of how I met my wife. That is word for word, no embellishment, exactly what happened. So, funny little aside. But I started getting good at Dark Souls PvP, and then I started to transition into Dark Souls 3 after Bloodborne came out, and I started getting really good there. I started doing tournaments and stuff like that. I started becoming known for PvP in general, and then I switched to For Honor. I ran tournaments there. I was in tournaments there and stuff like that. I started getting, viewers from that as well. I did a little stint of H1Z1 in before. That was like a month or two. It wasn't a very big period there, but and then eventually Jen got me to try Dead by Daylight, because she was a very big Dead by Daylight streamer, and so I tried it out, and I was like, man, this game is not very good. But I stuck with it, and now I can say the game is still not very good. But it's very fun to watch, and it's very fun to play when people are, engaging with you as viewers. I find it to be an incredibly good streaming game. It's not something I really want to play in my spare time, but it is such a fun game to have just silly moments and then see chat reactions from it. It's perfect for that. It is really, really, really good. So Dead by Daylight then became my main streaming game, and that eventually led to me making discussion videos, because I've always enjoyed doing that, talking about game balance, because I kind of have, a little non-professional history in some game design. I also worked on Dota 1 with Ice Frog and all them on the beta team, and I made a couple of heroes there. Or I coded them. I didn't make them. But then, I pretty much just kept streaming DBD, and then I kept doing what I was doing, and that leads me to being here right now, currently. So, again, I'm by no means an incredibly successful, rich streamer. I make enough to get by, but my job is so incredible that I cannot even begin to express how much I do not take streaming for granted. It is just such an amazing job, and I just wanted to make this video to go over how I got to it to begin with. Because getting this thing, it's just a little thing, but I don't know. I try to act like cool, like, oh, I don't care about this, but this is fucking awesome. This is really cool. The fact that people watch me at all, the fact that there's even any people that watch me rant about shit like this, I think is awesome. So thanks for watching, guys, and hopefully thank you for continuing to watch me. See you next time.